Good afternoon, everyone. Kalla here. Welcome to my live stream. Glad you could make it today. So today we are back to Great Ace Attorney as we begin the trial for the second case of the second game. We've got to help our good friend Siseki-san again, who's been arrested for murder, except actually the guy isn't dead. And I'm pretty sure the guy passed out from, like, gas fumes or something, but I'm not certain. And hello, Nick. I'm good today. I haven't actually finished Beanfest quite yet myself. I'm very, very close. Very close. So, alright, shall we get into it? 22nd of February, 9:23 AM. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Yes, carbon monoxide, that's the words I meant to use. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line! Good morning! Good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now there's another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole. I can't keep coming to court. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. Judicial Assistant Miss Mikatober Esquire, what's the bad news? Oh, dear. You heard, did you? Yes, Siseki really can't catch a break. Poor guy, no wonder he went back to Japan. If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say. Oh, I am sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mr. Sazo. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial... Oh, no, don't tell me it's the Reaper of the Bailey. Again. I mean, it's gonna be, isn't it? Because, yeah. Will be led by Lord Baroque von Zeeks. Yep! Of course. Van Zeeks? Yeah! Oh no! Oh no, no! The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still... Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter, after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zeeks is the prosecutor. Oh no! Don't worry, Natsume, I know you survive. That even the person found not guilty, even if that person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal. Right here in the Old Bailey. I bet Van Zeeks was just like, what is it that That Japanese defense lawyer is doing a case again. I want to be the prosecution. Right? Do I have to put up with those ice cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper. Pair of petrifying perils, potentially. Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Yes? I'm innocent, you have to believe me. I believe you, Saseki-san, I believe you. You more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle, I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Oh, yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh? If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, Lucum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Well said. I swear on the sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbours. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free, with honour. Oh yes! 22nd of February, 9:40 AM. The Old Bailey courtroom. Alright, who have we got? There's a bunch of very familiar faces on that bench. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defence to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defence is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defence needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat, Van Zieks. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zieks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yeah, Van Zieks really does look like a vampire, doesn't he? Yeah, now he's back in the courtroom. Though, for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Saseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Yeah, at random my ass, but you know. Absolutely. I have a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before. I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit straight. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is rather fetching, actually. Oh, this lady's new. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. Yeah, it's not going to be 20 minutes quick, juror number 4. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public. And that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Okay, so they just went, it's the same guy on trial, let's try and get the same jurors. Really? Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zeeks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to these eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighbouring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. Goodbye, Kate. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself. Witnesses, your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Soseki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume. Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken, that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. It practically was yesterday, Mr. Judge, sir. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gary Deb household, where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine. I don't know if I pronounced that right. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell tale, he very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. What's with the pool of liquid over there on the floor? Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right, everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. Crime scene photograph. Photographic print of the scene taken by the police upon their arrival. The victim can be seen unconscious at the table, having been poisoned. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes! As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious, what's haunted? My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room. I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out and somebody tried to kill me. You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. Yeah, that was my thought when he said he put on the stove and then went to bed. Like, are you asking for all of your books to light on fire? Like, your room is full of paper, sir. But it's so cold, my runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal. And he is named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief. Order, order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation? That evening, yeah, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defence must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection? None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question through the court now. Yes, my lord. Witness testimony. The catastrophic night. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbour, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. That was short. Ah, yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. I don't know, do you have proof that it was strychnine? Medical report? Excuse me, but that testimony does raise wow, words. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance. How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? Yeah, how can you prove that it was in the tea and that it was strychnine without doing the test? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. Oh, you need the actual liquid, do you? How useful for you. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. Yeah, I guess the trace evidence on the cup isn't something that they can deal with back in the 1900s. I guess. I see. Thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure, the recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. Except we know he won't be, because we know he goes back to Japan safe and sound. He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defence, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Press all the things time.
Hold it!
Were you and your neighbour good friends then? Ah, no, we weren't friends. Not at all, not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shakespeare fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together. Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature. The finer points, huh? I also do not understand the finer points of English literature. And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume. It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I just arrived back at my lodgings, when I ran into Mr. Shakespeare outside on the street. That was at around 6 o'clock. We exchanged one or two pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. So I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No, not one, not two, not any, not at all. And yeah, Van Ziek's being his usual racist self, indeed. Never, ever! A simple no would have sufficed, I feel. Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room. Hold it! A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? Ah, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. Oh, yes, my lord! Romeo and Juliet! Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley. Romeo and Juliet? Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Oh, you don't even mention that, Nick. Yeah, like, why was the door? Sometimes the door is just red. Sometimes there's no deeper meaning. Sometimes a poem is just about an eagle. Not that I'm still mad about that. Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out, in a Greco-Roman style, naturally. Why is a Greco-Roman style battle relevant to Romeo and Juliet? I mean, it's not exactly trauma, Nick, but English literature was my worst and also least favourite GCSE subject. Well, subject in general, I guess, since we did it not just to GCSE, but you know. What? Mr. Shakespeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for just such a contest. So, when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He is Romeo, I is Juliet, and after a vigorous, wild tussle, I, as Juliet, came out on top, a victory I'll cherish forever. GCSE is what here in England we do at the end of high school. So when we're 15, 16-ish. Your worst subject was maths. Maths was one of my best subjects. I like maths, it has proper answers. Proper defined answers. A bit like American SATs, probably? I know we have SATs earlier than that. I don't know why I'm saying SATs in the American style. SATs. We call. Your best subject was English. Ah. Yeah, English language and English literature we had as two separate subjects. They were my bottom two subjects. I don't like essays. I'm bad at essays. I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. It's true, there was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was. And do you have any basis for that statement, witness? Scientific papers. I also don't like writing scientific papers either.
Hold it!
Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. I mean, I don't really like the mental image that conjures up, Gregson, but sure. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyse it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume? Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. Landlord was able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how is the landlord able to attest to this? The gas lights, sir. He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector? When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in the other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Garrideb seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one key to Mr. Shamspeare's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself, from inside his room. The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes. So I'm right. The tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that. You don't necessarily die immediately, says Seki-san, but I'm not going to say that because that's not good for you. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean?
Hold it!
How long does it take for symptoms to appear, then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So, what are the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning? Can't believe I'm Googling this. A headache, dizziness, feeling sick, tiredness and confusion, stomach pain, shortness of breath, and difficulty breathing. And I guess eventually you die from asphyxiation. So it's not quite the same. The violent convulsions thing is, I guess, a different thing. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seems to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Well, it depends on what you spend in that 30 minutes doing, Banzeeks. Like, I've been streaming for more than 30 minutes now, and that hadn't actually been that long. 30 minutes when you've got nothing to do is a long time. And I guess 30 minutes is a long time for poison, I suppose. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. Yeah, but it's also not as if they drank the tea and he immediately left either, Banzeeks. They were drinking the tea and debating and had a fight. You can't deny that. And it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. The victim's medical report has been entered into the court record. Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great. Yeah, I forgot to read the thing. Let's actually... Let's look at the thing. We have soap, we have the envelope, we have the teacups. Let's look at the crime scene photograph. Yeah, I'm suspicious of this stain right here. That appears to be, like, under the gas meter. Victim's medical report. Sorry, a report issued by Scotland Yard's medical officer. It obviously mentions the poison as well as other details gleaned during the police investigation. Victim, William Shamspeare, 31. Cause of coma. Ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Investigative conclusions. The poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 AM on the 21st of February. Assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the man collapsed after the delayed onset of symptoms. No container for the poison was found at the scene. Wait! So you think the incident happened around 1:30? When our man definitely went back to his room by 11. And 30 minutes from then is 11:30, aka 2 hours before you're suggesting that he collapsed.
Hold it!
The argument still stands, you say? This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door if the accused left later on. Exactly. Me and my tea are innocent. Sweet and innocent, I tell you. I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone. But no! We drank the tea straight away! The battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger, that came after the tea. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying. Drink tea while it's hot. Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in the matter. No! That's the extent of their testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo. Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently. Yet Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the Inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty. As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to this testimony again. Yes. You believe they don't know about iced tea yet? And also, I don't drink tea while it's hot, as in immediately hot, because that's way too hot for my tongue. I wait for it to cool down a little bit. I drink tea while it's warm. Right, oh wait. Have we examined those teacups? Yeah. This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down too. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea. There's no tea ring on the inside of Mr. Natsume's cup. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamspeare was drinking from, then. It's stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid. Even green tea. Oh, really? I've never noticed before. You've never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear, so many people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture, and most of them are Japanese. Right, so Mr. Natsume drank his tea immediately. And Mr. Shamspeare took his time over, well, no, actually, Mr. Shamspeare waited for it to get cooler and then drank it all, because otherwise there would be markings that go further down if he was gradually drinking it. That's kind of not helpful for what we want to prove, so... Okay. We need to check what the... Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. I don't know how I'm supposed to... I guess I might need to present this about the timing. Should we present the thing about the time of death to this one, I think? Because if he went back to his room around 11, but the time of death wasn't till 2.5 hours later. Yeah. This? Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 PM when you left to return to your room, correct? Yes. And Inspector Gregson, can we rely on the information in the medical report unconditionally? Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, sunshine. Actually, I think there's a very big problem. Because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony. A chrono what? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Yeah. Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Ah! The defence's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zieks? Are we about to lose the chalice? Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. You're supposed to be paying attention. Do your job, Van Zieks. How could it have happened, you ask? Bye, chalice. I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponi's friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 1:30. It would have been completely stone cold by then, Van Zieks.
Objection!
Mr. Natsume brought the tea for him to drink together with his neighbour. And in Japan there's a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
And in my country there is an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. No. Van Zieks, do you even drink tea? Because cold black tea is gross. But it's also the middle of winter, so you don't want to drink cold tea either. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned, other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, Counsel? The gas. The gas. Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. You suggest this may have been a suicide, Counsel? Well, I mean, he was somewhat obsessed with Romeo and Juliet.
Objection!
Mr. Shakespeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
But he could be lying. Is something wrong, Lord Van Zeeks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray, forgive the discourtesy. Is the victim here? Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Who, sir, are you? William Shakespeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim. What's he doing here? The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness? Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy am I, Shakespeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English. That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim. Who's that? Oh, that's the bloke that we frightened off outside the house, right? Alright, so that's Mr. Shakespeare. But who's that other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound they compose the earth. The unrivalled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. Were the great bard to be recalled to life anew, lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shakespeare. Oh, the name's Meter Man. Adron B Meter Man. He's, I assume, the Meter Man. I work for the Altamont Gas Company East End branch office. Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road. Oh yes, she's right, it's him. Oh, what's this? Was he trying to read the meter from outside? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word? Ah! Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadev's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case? Quite a lot, because the gas is kind of the problem here. So, Mr. William Shamspeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct? Oh, heaven, oh, hell! Do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that did cross me and cross mine innocent lips. I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me is a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name? No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. They're actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously? Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions. But, my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamspeare doing here? The gas man, I mean. What? Me? Well now. Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence, when you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar. What? No, I didn't quite say that. This young chin-stroker here is here to controvert your wild claims, conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman? Hang on, no. I'm just here. I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what's happened on the night in question. One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent. Playing the jury like a fiddle. Yep. The wintry night of my discontent. Why is that the name of it? The snow lay about. My neighbour did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But merry, bitter was his drink, and when he left I did fall prostrate upon my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else. I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed eastern fella. Why were you spying on him, Mr. Peterman? Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shamspeare's room all night? You think it might have been matcha tea, do you, Nick? I mean, just a regular black tea is pretty bitter as well. So... That's right. Of course, the bloke's window is all but blocked up, innit? There's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that. The question is, why? Ah, well now, that's because he's on my list. What a piece of work is a man, wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment? What are you talking about? This buzzing busybody hath no part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed, make no more ado about his tedious words. What you say about me? Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more. Indeed, that is so. And as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time that could have carried out this crime. I mean, we've just established that the meter man was around all night for some reason. Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Doubt. Now, counsel, the defence may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord.
Hold it!
To be clear, by neighbour you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume? Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou wouldst that I call him the man from upstairs. And at what time did the mustachioed Nipponese visit you in your room? Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea. Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes. And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before. By which I presume he means their discussion about who was stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shakespeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbour played the fair Juliet. Each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment. I dare not imagine the scene. Frailty, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard of the eastern arts of jiu-jitsu, but ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practised by the comely maiden. Juliet beat Romeo up? This is not helping our case. Also, in the politest sense, Mr. Shakespeare, fuck off with that frailty thy name is woman shit. I could also hand Mr. Shakespeare his ass. I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Speaking of people whose asses I could also hand in a fight, Van Zeeks, pretty sure I could beat him up too. I could probably beat up everyone in this courtroom except juror number 5. I don't actually mean this. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room. My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding.
Hold it!
Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. Yeah, the Susato takedown would be a great example. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. Look at him wiggling like that. If the defendant had really put the poison into your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain. Gladly, 'tis an easy task. What? I did drink of the tea, not while my guest did tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour past midnight, verily were my lips parched.
Objection!
That doesn't sound normal. I mean, he's not normal either, in general. Have you seen him? Nay, just quite ordinary, sire, after all. Thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amidst such argument, there'd be no time for fiery tea. Yeah, but you'd think you'd need to wet your whistle a little bit while you was debating. I have to. It was judo, yes. It was a while back, but I have thrown people significantly larger than myself, who certainly did not expect to go flying through the air. Well, actually, the time that happened was, I think, jiu-jitsu, actually, rather than judo. Because it was several years later in a different place and a different martial art. But it had the same throws. The guy that time must have been at least 6 foot tall and built pretty sturdily. And he certainly did not expect me to throw him. He had fun though, flying through the air. Jumped straight back up again and was like, again! Do it again! Like a little kid. Romeo and Juliet again, who was stronger. Mr. Shamspear, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker? But of course, my liege. 'Twas the stooped lover of words did attempt to shuffle me off this mortal coil. We all know what that means.
Hold it!
So you didn't have any kind of evening meal, dinner, supper? Fie on luxury, fie on gluttony. To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time. Sorry? I would that my belly were full, no more oft than the sun doth rise. You say you only eat 1 meal a day, huh, Shamspear? Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say. Night and day I do fill my hours with learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence it is that there doth naught in my chamber be than these costumes of mine art. Yeah, height does not help you when it comes to being thrown. Height does in fact hinder you. Because the taller someone is, the higher up their center of gravity is. And it's a lot easier to throw someone when your center of gravity is lower than theirs. Although leg muscles will definitely help for throwing. If you don't have that advantage of being being a little shorter. I mean, it depends on the throw, really. The hip throw was always my favourite because that one really did mostly utilise your own centre of gravity to just sort of tip the other person over. And that would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room. Oh no! There's a dead rat in his room. Now I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. Wait, how is he supposed to study Shakespeare if he doesn't have a single play or script? For I have devoured them all. Literally? You've eaten them? Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise? Right, that wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea.
Hold it!
But the windows of that house have all been filled in. A historical artifact of the now defunct window tax. Yeah, you're right. All bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking in through that gap. Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there? And for some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well. I don't like going around poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. You've got a lot of chin to poke into other people's business, haven't you? Well, them's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing. As long as there's breath in my body. What's with all the theatricals today? Out of interest, Mr. Meterman, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all? No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time as far as I'm concerned. And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide. How can you be sure of that? The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose of the poison's container himself, it's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle. Ah, yes. Lucidly explained, Counsel. Thank you. Yeah, but also, did you find a receptacle for the poison in Mr. Natsume's room? But you haven't even thought of doing that. It really was. You can't argue with the logic.
Hold it!
You say a short little round-backed Eastern fellow? So you can't be sure it was the defendant, then?
Objection!
How many other short little round-backed Nipponies with a mustache do you think there are in London? Well, of course, it's only a narrow gap and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself. And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamspeare drink tea together? Nah, sorry. I couldn't say. Why not? Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? But what I did see was the silhouette of that little round back fella wearing a pretty dress. Then the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match. I tell you, I didn't know what to make of it. I suppose that was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway. Mr. Meterman, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question, Gasman's honour. Hold it. Is probably Mr. Natsume? Nope, it's the juror. My lord! Goodness me, yes, Mr. Foreman. I've kept my mouth shut and listened up till now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes. Are we to understand that you ladies and gentlemen of the jury are in agreement with one another? That you've reached a unanimous decision? Too right we have. Are you all with me? Yes. Wait, no! The defence is in the middle of a cross-examination! To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room. Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it. But in the end, what difference do they make? None as far as I can see. And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer. Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow her top. What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Very well. Let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Well, it's time to do the talking to the jury thing, I guess. I've forgotten what that's called. All of you? Well, it would appear that the jury is indeed unanimous. So, this time at least it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished. Ah. Ah. Get up, Mr. Naruhodo, please. The trial isn't over yet. What do you mean, Mr. Zato? What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? That obscure right that belongs to the defence in these situations. Remember? A summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defence moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend, instead of accepting the truth. That's because it's not the truth, Van Zeeks. Certainly no other defence counsellor in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination. Because they all know that once the jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered. Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with a summation examination as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law. Thank you, my lord. Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman? Believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity. And we're ready for it. Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused. Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions. The victim may not be well off, but he's a noble man and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man. Well, I do declare that the good gentleman has no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid. Just look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stoops all the while, and has a moustache. Very fishy. There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least. Yeah, I really don't care. I just need this trial to end quickly. 3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know? Nothing at all. I knew it. Every single one of them seems completely convinced. It would seem that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shakespeare is a fine, upstanding and honest citizen. If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements. And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsume has said appears to have registered at all. Well, here goes. Let's not forget. Pleaded with the jury on Soseki-san's behalf before, and it worked. So, you never know. Before we begin, it might be an idea for me to remind you exactly how a summation examination works, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh. Well, you're still very new to British law, after all. That's true, I suppose. And Soseki-san's fate is entirely in my hands now too. There's always a chance I might have forgotten some crucial detail. Perhaps I should hear Suzaku-san out. I wonder, should I let her talk me through it again, or not bother? Refresh my memory. Alright, so, if you remember, the key to changing the jurors' minds is the things that they say themselves. Yes, it's coming back to me. First, it's important to listen very carefully to each juror's statement. Then, if it sounds as though one of those statements might contradict another, I have to pit the corresponding 2 jurors against one another to prove one or the other of them wrong. Yes, that's right. In many ways, it's very similar to a normal cross-examination. Alright then, all that remains now is to do it. Without further ado, please, counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. Okay. The victim may not be well off, but he's a nobleman and straight up. There's no reason to doubt him. Oh wait, pressing. I forgot about pressing. We need to press.
Hold it!
Well, there are plenty of people in London who seem noble but poor. Couldn't some of them also be liars? I've no doubt about it. Like that shaky client of yours, for example. Absolutely not. Mr. Natsume is no liar. Look, the point is, the only thing that passed the victim's lips that night was that Japanese man's tea. When you take the gasman's testimony into account as well, the truth couldn't be any clearer. Well, That's alarmingly logical. But let me be frank here. I am a gentleman with a gentleman's values. If it turns out that the old Shakespeare chum is a rotten liar after all, I'd gladly change my decision about the defendant. And I'm sure my fellow gentlemen on the jury would do the same, isn't that right? Well, yes, perhaps. Though I don't see it happening. What's that? Elderly gent on the end here, you know. You have to speak up. Look, I really don't care about all this nonsense. I just need this trial to be over. How many gentlemen do we actually have on the jury, then? All right, sir. I may hold you to that. Don't forget what you said. All right, if you show me the victim's a liar, I'll reconsider my position.
Hold it!
Are you saying that you believe the man to be trustworthy because he's rather splendid? No, that's not what I said. The point is, the man is the victim here. What reason would he have to lie? And yes, he is rather splendid. So you say, yes again. Meanwhile, the man who stands accused behaves so suspiciously, it's exhausting to look at him. I'm afraid he's not splendid at all. Splendid logic there, madame. Thank you so much.
Hold it!
No, not one of those things is the reason to find the man guilty. But he is fishy. There's no point dancing around the fact. He's Japanese, he has a mustache, and he stoops. You see, you arrive at the conclusion in just 3 steps. 3 steps, like a waltz, in fact. You know, the more I think about it, the more this trial seems like a dance. You seem to be several steps ahead of yourself, though. And you're on the wrong foot. No, there's nothing but circumstantial evidence here. There's no actual proof of the defendant's guilt. But the victim's version of events is backed up by what the big chinned man next to him says, isn't it? 1, he saw the Japanese man there. 2, he saw no one else. And 3, he saw the Japanese man there. Oh. That's another 3 steps. Oh, this really does seem more and more like a waltz, doesn't it? Right, and the prosecution will waltz its way to victory if I let you speak much more.
Hold it!
A fraudsman? What do you mean by that, madame? It really is the most tiresome problem for the company. Most irritating. We can be absolutely certain that a customer is stealing from us, but without hard evidence, we can't even threaten to take action for fear of being sued. I'm sorry, you've lost me a little there. Who are you? I'm the wife of Augustus Allamont, owner of the Allamont Gas Company. I see. I see. I see. So, this seems like, what's the word? What's the phrase? Given how relevant the gas is in this, I feel like she shouldn't be here. Conflict of interest. Except actually, I suppose we're not talking about the gas at the moment, even though I'm pretty sure that's the culprit. Good gracious, Allamont gas, you say? Gas is the future of energy in this country and around the globe. Proper handling is essential. As I'm sure our employee from the East End branch office would be the first to agree. Absolutely, Lady Quimby. Gotta be used properly. Element gas is the best in the world, of course. Ah, I think we may have solved the mystery of the bow from earlier, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, he bowed in deference to his employer's wife, did he? Ah, so would I be right in assuming that the reason Mr. Meterman was watching what Mr. Shamspeare was up to in his room? I'm afraid there's no end to the lengths the population of the East End will go to in order to steal our gas. So I really have no choice when the company identifies someone as a possible fraudsman, but to dispatch a worker to watch the suspect day and night. We're very thorough in our investigations. So you mean Mr. Shamspeare is... I wouldn't come out and say it in public, but you can finish that sentence with a grubby little gas thief. You have noticed the public gallery in here, have you? The eye of man hath not heard, the ear of man hath not seen. Brief, that wouldst thou wound me with thy words, were I to let them penetrate the skin. But seraphs hear not insults, only choirs of angels in song. We may not have evidence yet, but my workers won't stop buzzing around until they find it. Buzzing around when her parasol looks like a bee. And when they do, you'll find yourself blasted back to your angelic heights in an element gas explosion. I'm not sure you should be threatening on blowing him up while we're in a court of law, lady. So Mr. Shamspeare has been stealing gas. I wonder, juror number 4, if you wouldn't mind adding that information to your statement? My pleasure. Was it the bit about ripping that thief apart you enjoyed? A little before the part about abject violence, if it's not too much trouble. Yes, of course. This could be it. This could shift the balance. Yes, her against juror number 1. The victim puts on a fine performance, but in reality, he is a common thief of my company's gas. But I do want to press the other two first. Queen bee of the gas company. Yes. You keep talking about needing to take home some money. What's that all about, sir? Finish last, that's what it's about. What's that? I'm talking about the derby at Hyde Park, aren't I? It was the Queen's Cup last week, wasn't it? Oh, so you used your money betting on horses and now the wife's mad at you. Derby? It was a dead cert, that's the thing. I couldn't lose, so I took my wife's secret savings like, oh boy. Nope. You don't take someone else's money to go betting, sir. That's not done. But then that hopeless old mare went and did the unthinkable. Ah, that stupid Finnish lass. Oh dear, I think it's clear what happened, isn't it? This is the day the missus uses her savings for a trip down the pub. So come on, let the business lie now. Just give it up. Oh, he's trying to replace her savings before she uses them, huh? No, that's not going to happen.
Hold it!
What do you really mean by that, sir? Well, I'm not one to boast, but I get up at 5 every morning, I do. At 5? You're a really early riser then, aren't you? What's that now? I said you're an early riser! Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I like to while away the hours in the evening reading books as well. But by about 2 in the morning, I'm usually too tired to go on. He sleeps at 2 in the morning and gets up at 5? Oh my, that means he only has 3 hours of sleep each night. What's that, dear? Only 3 hours of sleep each night. That's right, you see. 3 hours of missing time. Like I said, it's not much, is it? This really isn't helping. Practically the only betting I do is on Gacha as well, Nick. Apart from the couple of times I have been and betted on horses. In very small amounts, and always coming out with more money than I went in with. The key to summation examinations is identifying contradictions between jurors' statements, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, and once I've found 2 jurors whose statements can't coexist, I need to pit those jurors against each other. Then hopefully, when they see what I'm saying doesn't make sense, they'll change their leaning. Yes, and if you're able to change the minds of the majority of the jurors, the trial will continue. But conversely, if you're unable to do that, the judge will declare the trial over and move to adjudication. And I can't let that happen. Somehow or other, I have to turn this trial around. Ah, yeah, he's a doctor. I wouldn't want my doctor operating on 3 hours of sleep. Oof. I mean, specifically he's a surgeon, right? That's even worse.
Objection.
Oh yeah, scratch tickets I've done a couple, like, once or twice. And, lottery, sometimes. But, you know, the point is you never spend more on betting than you can afford to. That's the point. Those 2 statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious! To whose statements do you refer, counsel? Juror number 1. Ev, what are you yelling about, lad? I presume you've heard juror number 4's statement, made by the wife of the Almont Gas. Well, yes. The victim, who you claim to be a noble, straight-up man, in fact turns out to be a common thief. So the good lady says, but there's no evidence, is there? You and I both heard them say as much. It's true, we don't have evidence as such, just yet. But the claims aren't baseless, you know. What? You heard me. Seeing as this operation has already been compromised, I would suggest that the court hears testimony from our East End branch office employee over there. I'll do whatever you say, my lady. Gasman's honour. Treating me with what to do with the grand prize is always fun because the chance of winning is practically non-existent. Yeah, I have dreamed about what I would spend a large quantity of money on if I happen to win somehow. Juror number 1, you say you're a man of your word. If I could show that Mr. Shamspeare was a liar, you assured me that you would reconsider your decision about the defendant's guilt. Yes, I did say that. And as a man of honour, I'll hold to it, as I'm sure the other gentlemen of the jury will. Me? Oh, well, yes. Now that we've found out the man's a liar, perhaps we ought to consider the matter further. Well, if I'm perfectly honest, I haven't heard half of what you've all been saying. So if this means you'll recap a few points, that would suit me down to the ground. Oh no, I'm not having any part of that. I want this trial over and done with. In that case, I shall change my leading. So, Mr. William Shamspeare, if that is your real name. We of the jury demand to know exactly what kind of a man you really are. That's 4 jurors. 4 for not guilty. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Victory! Order! Order! Well, this is quite extraordinary, I must say. No, it's not. We've done it how many times now? As a result of the defense's summation examination, the jury's leaning has changed. Now only 2 jurors say guilty, while 4 say not guilty. I therefore declare this court to be in a state of disaccord, and order the trial to continue. Yeah, the scale will be going back and forwards this whole time, right? And is it time to say goodbye to the goblet? Yep, there it goes. You have spoiled the bouquet, Mr. Shamspeare. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury now find that they are unable to trust you, the victim. But you gods will give us some faults to make us men. And so, God mend me, I do swear. This gasman speaketh that which concerns him most, naught but gas, naught but thin air. Aye, it burneth bright a while, but it hath no substance, and it doth reek foul. Oi, what did you say? Do I take it, Mr. Shamspeare, that you deny the allegations of gas thievery? Most heartily, my lord, hast thou forgot? I am as a seraph, an angel. Noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart. Yeah, you flowery-mouthed, pompous beanpole, just because I haven't got the evidence yet. Mr. Shamspeare, if, in fact, you are not noble of mind, sweet of nature, or honest of heart, if you are a liar, then your testimony should have no sway in this courtroom. It is my considered opinion that at the present time no other possible culprit of this crime has been identified. All testimony heard by the court thus far heavily implicates the defendant. In short, it would not be unreasonable at this stage for me to rule on the case. Oh no! However, in light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the fidelity of this witness, I believe it would be inappropriate for this court not to pursue the point further.
Objection!
I assure you, my lord, that it would be a waste of the court's time. The gas and this case are unrelated. You wanna bet on that, Van Zeeks? You a betting man? Because I bet that the gas and this case are completely and entirely, inextricably linked. Juror number 4. Yes? Didn't you say before that although you had no hard evidence to prove this man has been stealing gas, you have strong grounds for suspecting him? That's right, we do. Don't we, worker? Absolutely, Lady Quimby. Gasman's honour. Very well then. We will hear your testimony now. You will tell the court precisely why you believe the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, has been stealing gas. Yes, my lord, it'll be my pleasure. On the Alamant gas name, I swear. If I may, my lord. Go ahead, madame. This worker's testimony may have a significant bearing on the good name of my husband's company. Therefore, I should like to take a stand alongside him in a supervisory role, if you wouldn't mind. Wahoo! Oh yeah, sweet as honey! Yeah, 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 yeah! Very well. As an exception, I shall honour your request. Thank you, my lord. You wait until the boss gives you an earful. Oh, it's going to sting, you mark my words. So, you will both testify before the court. on the subject of the illegal consumption of the Altamont Gas Company's fuel. Yes, is that clear, my good man? Clear as Altamont gas, my lady, which is the clearest in the world. Do you think the gas has gone to his head, Miss Susato? I think the man is just a very dedicated employee, Mr. Naruhodo. Before we deal with this testimony, I'm going to go get myself another drink. I will be right back. And I'm back. The Altamont Gas Company's investigation. I'm proud to be the company's East End branch investigator and meter money collection agent. Altamont gas meters accept threepenny bits, and each coin given customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas. And yet, the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it. Wait. That's far too obvious, Mr. Shamspeare. No coins at all. The meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with, though, and the collection agent has the only key. Somehow he's using all the flaming gas he wants without paying a penny. If that's not thieving, what is? Yeah? Pray forgive the discourtesy. The irrelevance of this testimony has caused me to turn to my beloved... No, beloved? No. My hallowed chalice. It's not a beloved chalice because he keeps breaking it. What do you mean by that remark, Lord Van Zeeks? Did the mustachioed Nipponese poison the gangling excuse for an actor, or didn't he? That is all that should concern this court. And yet now we must listen to this abhorrence. Bye, Chalice! Clearly what separates the vast British Empire and your Eastern Island nation is more than geographical distance. But this could turn out to be crucial testimony. The cross-examination must go ahead. Do what you will. Also, goodbye, bottle. Lord Van Zeeks appears to be in a violent mood. Yes, he does. An attempted poisoning and an incident of gas theft with no supporting evidence. It's true that they would appear completely unrelated at first glance. But I wonder, the truth tends to be buried in the most unusual places. And the first step in uncovering it will be to establish just who and what this man really is. Yeah, he's either a fraud or too poor to afford. I mean, we know he's supposed to be quite poor. He can't even afford tea. But is there a count on how many chalices he breaks? I haven't been counting. All I've got is my throat counter. Time to press all the statements.
Hold it!
So does that mean you enter people's houses in order to empty their gas meters? I do. I have to try to catch people when they're in. Then I ask permission to come inside and do my business. Does that mean you've been into Mr. Natsume's room before, as well as that of Mr. Shamspeare? Well, now, interesting you should bring that up, because I couldn't believe how little money was in his meter. I mean, how the pair of them survived the winter is beyond me, it really is. Knowing Mr. Natsume, he probably spends all his gas money on books. And then when he's finished reading them, he probably burns them for warmth. Ooh, no, do not like. You will kindly reiterate your statements about the gas meters themselves, Mr. Meterman. Not much to say, really, but as you wish.
Hold it!
Honestly, 3 pence for 2 hours of gas is kinda not much, is it? Well, I mean, then again, inflation, I don't know how much threepenny was worth in terms of how much people get paid back then. So all London houses that have a gas supply are fitted with these gas meters, are they? They're the latest model, the height of technology, developed by a company, Altamont Gas. 19 times per game. Is there only that much? I guess it seems like more. And anyone who uses our gas will have one of these meters on their property, yes. So if a 3 pence coin gives 2 hours of gas, most people would use about 3 coins in a night? A bit more than that, usually, if they have both gas lights and a gas stove, that is. Thinking about it, Soseki-san doesn't have a fireplace in that room of his, does he? Some people still choose to use candles, of course, and only have gas for heating. Ah, yes, I do remember seeing candles in Mr. Natsume's room, actually. And how does the money in the meter get back to you at the gas company? Every 3 days, gasmen like me visit properties on the gas supply and empty the meters of coins. I must say the design and manufacture of the new meter cost the company an awful lot of money. But happily, it did put a stop to people not paying their dues, for the most part. Ah, because they have to pay in advance, you mean? Yes, exactly right.
Hold it!
Out of interest, how long has this been going on? Weeks and weeks! He's been pinching gas off us for ages! And you've examined the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room, I take it? Naturally, we took it off the wall and went over it with a fine-tooth comb. And found nothing suspicious at all, I presume? No, I'm afraid we didn't. Which is exactly why I demanded a new type of meter to be produced. One with an indestructible lock, the Shamspeare Special. That sounds like it would have cost an awful lot of threepenny pieces. But even after all that, the rascal's meter was still empty. I'll never forget the humiliation. When I opened up the money box and found it bare. You what? I said. You what? And the look on his face, that smarmy smile of his. I pulled the meter straight off the wall and took it back to the office. But you know what? Nothing. Not a trace of it being jimmied open anywhere. Not a single sign. And what's happening to my salary as a result? Down by 3 shillings a day, that's what. A life-threatening situation in a number of ways. A new meter for one guy who doesn't pay seems excessive. But they wanted to catch him in the act, you know. I wonder if he, like, attaches a piece of ribbon to a threatening bit or something and just drops it in far enough for it to activate the mechanism and then just pulls it back out again. Incidentally, what became of that meter? Nothing became of it, I still got it. Oh? Right here. No wonder they call you Meter Man. I think it would be prudent for the court to sequester this item while the trial is ongoing. The gas meter has been entered into the court record. A meter that dispenses gas for a set time after a coin is inserted. It sports a very strong lock, developed especially with Mr. Shamspeare in mind. Definitely. Although at first glance there doesn't appear to be anything unusual about it. Let's move this along, shall we? Continue with your testimony. I'm gonna look at the court record, me. Let's examine this gas meter with a fine-tooth comb. That's a very sturdy-looking padlock, isn't it? And the money box is sealed with beeswax, too. So if Mr. Sholmes were to get up to any mischief, he'd be found out immediately. Mr. Naruhodo, mischief of that kind is not the sort of thing that Mr. Sholmes would... You know you didn't finish that sentence, don't you? Well, anyway. It's understandable that the gas company would want to safeguard the money that's rightfully theirs. But it does feel a little over the top, perhaps, doesn't it? So basically there's a proper wax seal on this. Oh. Are you sure you looked at it properly? Oh, what's... Have you spotted something, Mr. Naruhodo? Just here, there's a little hole, do you see? Goodness, you're right, I wouldn't have noticed. I have an idea. It's not a very neat hole, is it? Not professionally made, I'd say. So you think it might have been opened up by Mr. Shamspeare? Possibly. It seems that the people who sold Mount Gas must have missed it. Well, it certainly seems to go all the way through to the inside. Yes, but there's no way a coin could fit through there. That's true, but even so, it seems more than a little suspicious. Is he making threepenny bits, in inverted commas, out of soap? And then using that hole to remove the soap afterwards? Somehow. Details of the gas meter have been updated in the court record. There is a tiny hole in its base. And so that's where the pipes go. And there's nothing else to look at. Yes, puts water in it to dissolve the soap. And that's, yes, and that's why there's the mark on the floor. Yes, exactly. And it's like the cheapest soap, right? Cheap soap. With a coin-shaped space in it. Wasn't that red before? Oh! What is it, Mr. Naruhodo? This bar of soap, when we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here. A reddish one. Yes, you're right. I remember it too. But now the depression is completely empty. Where could the disc have gone? The details of the bar of soap have been updated in the court record. It probably dissolved or something, right? Suspicious. Though I would say it has as much value as the contents of that meter. Oof. I mean, the meter does appear to have been tampered with, but I'm going to press you first. There's only one key for all of your meters? Well, in truth, there's another key in the company vault at our main office. But even if someone had somehow managed to get a hold of a key, we'd know the coin box had been opened. Oh, how? I came up with a rather clever way to expose any little shenanigans as it happens. Would you care to explain? Well now, in order to empty a meter, you have to unlock the padlock and remove the cover. But when I close the cover again, I stick a little beeswax seal on it, you see? A seal? Like the sort of thing you've put on an envelope, you mean? Something like that, yes. Basically, you can't remove the cover again without breaking the seal. Now, in the case of Mr. Champspeare's meter, there were no coins inside at all, as I said. But the seal hadn't been broken either. So that would mean Mr. Champspeare somehow managed to steal coins from inside the meter without opening it? It would seem so, but that would be impossible.
Hold it!
How do you know he's been using gas, though? Well now, since I started investigating this bloke, I've been to his room more than a few times. And on every single occasion, his lamps have been blazing and his stove pounding. It's the middle of winter and he still turns to me, sweat dripping down his cheeks, and says, "Get thee to a nunnery." Hamlet, indeed. Yeah, I could wring the bloke's neck. I get all hot under the collar, but still. Every time I open up that flaming meter, it's empty. He's robbing me of my salary too. What's wrong with the world? Where's the justice? But how can Mr. Shamspeare possibly be stealing the money? I don't understand. The simple explanation is right before your eyes. What? A toast to eventually realizing that the gasman could be an accomplice. Yeah, what? Good lord. Eminently plausible indeed. Well, what do you have to say for yourself? Oh, please, Lady Quimby, I'm a faithful worker. And besides, if the money your gasman collect doesn't tally up with how much gas has been used, you dock our pay by the same amount. So you'd be stealing money only to have the same amount taken from your wages. Clearly that makes no sense. Perhaps it's a case of losing the battle to win the war. No, I'm not going to stir up that hornet's nest. If I went stealing from the company, I'd be finished. It would seem there is no evidence to support the claims of thievery made against the victim, because Mr. William Shamspeare is innocent. He's not. He's definitely not innocent. Pray, forgive me if that shatters some illusion my learned Nipponese friend was clearly under. I certainly didn't expect to uncover another crime that looks like it's been taking place in the very same room. According to the testimony, it's only the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room that's under suspicion. It does seem as though perhaps it has nothing to do with the incident involving Mr. Natsume. I know, it does seem that way, but the fact is, since I've been practicing law in England, I feel like I've encountered this at least once already. Cases that are interlinked. Oh. It might seem that two cases have nothing to do with one another at first, but in fact, they're intimately connected. Yes, we have experienced that before, haven't we? I wonder if this is another instance. Perhaps. We can't be sure of that yet. If the Altamont Gas Company has been investigating Mr. Shamspeare so earnestly, there must be something to it. But then how has he been managing to steal their gas? Anyway, so we want... It doesn't appear to have been tampered with. Actually, it does appear to have been tampered with.
Objection!
Lady Altamont, I'm afraid to say that this meter clearly does show signs of having been tampered with. What? Get away! I've been over and over that thing! I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with it! In that case, what do you have to say about the small hole that's been made at the base of the coin box? Owl? What? You're right, you're quite right. There is a little hole here. Sorry, there is a little hole there. The meters aren't supposed to have that, none of the others do. In other words, we can assume that Mr. Shamspeare secretly opened up this hole himself. Yes, I wouldn't be at all surprised, but why? Yeah, why? I mean, it's tiny. Couldn't get a farthing through that. Lady Altamont, I wonder if you could give the court some more details about your meter design. What sort of details? Well, what I'd specifically like to know is how it differentiates coins. How does the meter tell the difference between different coins? Oh, what do you mean? Well, for example, if someone were to put in a 1-penny coin, that wouldn't work, presumably, would it? No, of course not. So, well, how does the meter know that the coin it's been fed is a threepenny bit? Ah, I see what you're getting at now. The meter tells coins apart by their shape and size, which includes their thickness. But not weight, I see. A threepenny bit is about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, you see. Other coins just won't fit. Ah, I see. It's clearly been very well thought out. The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent. As you wish, my lord. The meter is designed for coins the exact diameter and thickness of a threepenny bit. Nothing else will fit. Press.
Hold it!
But conversely then, it would seem that anything matching a 3p coin exactly in terms of diameter and thickness could equally well be used. Would that be true? Well, yes, in a way. The weight comes into it to a certain extent as well. Okay, so weight is involved. We've thought of that though anyway. If I find any fake coins inside the coin box when I empty the meter, the contract says the customer has to pay 100 times the amount they diddled as a fine. We live for moments like that, as gas men do. Live for them. Ha ha ha. Wait, does he have like a worker bee butt? As obviously a bag. It would seem the gas company has thought of everything. They haven't thought about fake coins that could disappear, though. Wahoo! Hurrah for gas! Hurrah for cash! Altamont all the way! That's quite enough of that. Remind me, how big are threepenny bits? About 3/4 of an inch across. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Is this 2 centimeters measurement significant? Or perhaps there's some other aspect of the meter's construction we should be focusing on? Yes, you may be right. Perhaps I should try a different tack here. Like asking about whether the meter can be dismantled, for example. I would like to delve deeper. How can the meter be dismantled? Dismantled? Yes, given that there are no signs of it having been forced. I'm wondering if perhaps rather than being broken open, it might have been taken apart. Well, yes, that does make some sense. The padlocks are made by a first-class locksmith from the finest quality steel. And the meter box itself is made from plate steel as well, welded shut to ensure it can't be opened again. I can assure you it's quite impossible to dismantle it. Wahoo! Yeah, nothing leaks from an Altamont meter, no coins, no gas, no nothing. Are you sure that gas doesn't leak from an Altamont meter? I see. The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent. As you wish, my lord. All joints on the meter are welded shut and the lock is made from solid steel. There's no way to dismantle it.
Hold it!
Has anyone ever tried? Oh yeah, they've tried. They've all given up before long. After all, if they actually broke the meter, the company would be able to take legal action. Yes, that makes sense. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Is its welded steel construction significant? Or perhaps there's some other aspect of the meter's construction that we should be focusing on? Yes, you may be right. Perhaps I should try a different tack here. Oh, okay, so I get to swap the thing I'm faster about. Definitely I want the thing about the different coins, which we're just going to run back through again so that we can have that. The meter is designed for coins the exact diameter and thickness of a threepenny bit. Is this the exact...
Objection.
Nope. That last statement was contradictory in a number of ways, I think you'll find. In a number of ways, you say? That's right, my lord, in a number of ways. Perhaps it would serve you well to concentrate your efforts on one contradiction at a time, Counsel. Man, I can't just present the soap. I made a mess of that in a number of ways, actually. Okay, now we can look at it again. Oh, look at this bar of soap. There's a circular depression on this side, about 2 centimeters across. Or 3/4 of an inch. Ah, do you think... We did find this soap at the scene, didn't we? Yes, there were 2 bars on that little ledge just outside the window. So we took this one. But I'm sure that when we first found it, there was some sort of reddish medallion in the centre there. I remember it clearly. Yes, but there's no sign of it now. Where could it have gone? Okay, there we go. We needed to examine the soap again before we could do it. Right. Oh wait, sorry. I still need to be in there. Soap. Present.
Objection.
There we go. Let me just confirm something here. If the diameter and thickness were to be correct, the meter would accept any objects as if it were a threepenny bit. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Well, by something of a coincidence, when we were investigating Mr. Shamspeare's room, we found a particular item that matches the dimensions perfectly. Something the same size as a threepenny bit. What was it? The item in question is this. What? Have you been inhaling gas at a bar of soap? It certainly looks nothing like a threepenny bit, I must say. It looks like I'm going to have to point out exactly what I mean here. What's so important about the soap? What's so important about the soap is this part here.
Got it.
You have to turn over the soap to see what I mean. Ah! Are you referring to that round depression in the middle of the soap there? That's right, a depression that's approximately 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Or in other words, almost exactly the same size as a threepenny bit. Get away! Does anyone here present have in their possession a threepenny bit? Quickly now, hand over your coins, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds rather like a highway robbery, doesn't it? Yeah, just a bit. Thanks to a kind member of the public in the gallery, I have here a threepenny bit. Now, to see if it fits. My word, it couldn't be more snug. Yes, as I suspected. This, without a doubt, is a vital clue to explain how the Ultimate Gas Company is being defrauded. It's possible that he's made the thing in the soap so that he can use it as a mould for, like, I don't know, candle wax or something. And then just make it out of candle wax instead of out of soap. Put it in and then the ambient heat from the room probably causes it to melt out the bottom, but... Well, I don't believe it! Okay, it is just a regular sort of bag he's wearing. It just looks like a bee's butt from the side. So your assertion amounts to what? That some inferior bar of soap has a tentative connection to the theft of gas? Yes! The depression in the soap was clearly made by a threepenny bit. I must concur, at least, that pushing a coin with some force into into a poor quality bar of soap such as this is a remarkably simple way of replicating the coin's shape. And then you could use, well, some melted wax or something to pour into the mould. That's what I just said. You could make fake coins in no time. This brings all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's the method Mr. Shamsphere has been using to seal the gas. That's the missing link. And now if I follow this train of thought, it's going to bring me to a new explanation for what happened to that's nobody's considered yet. But this is all nonsense. If the man had been making fake coins, my worker here would have found them when he emptied the meter. Quite true, Lady Ultimate. In the absence of some black magic that could make them disappear. No black magic, you just melt them. I see. That's what we're dealing with, is it? There is one form of black magic that could cause the fake coins to disappear into thin air, yes. Exactly. And the meter here gives it away. What on earth? There are remnants of the magical method used visible on the gas meter taken from the victim's room. If that is your assertion, Counsel, the defence will identify these remnants for the court at once. Where on the meter can the remnants of the method used to make the fake coins disappear be seen? I assume it must be the hole. There's just a little hole in the bottom of the meter here, isn't there? And it looks as though it was made by someone who didn't really have the right tools. It does actually go all the way through to the inside, though it's hard to see that unless you look closely. In fact, it goes right to the part of the meter where the money ends up. I suppose it's nothing then. Oh? Well, you couldn't possibly extract a coin through such a small hole, could you? No, I suppose not. Then the question remains, why would someone go to the effort of making a hole here? I assume it's the hole. Because there's no easy evidence of, like, fire or anything, so I assume we're going with the hole.
Got it!
We found this bar of soap at the scene of the crime, just outside the victim's window. Outside? Yes, outside, where you yourself, Mr. Meterman, were loitering in the freezing winter air. Oh yeah, because it's basically warm enough for it to drip out, yes. Without the application of any additional fire. Which means that the coins that are being moulded need to be outside in the cold. That's where we found this soap. Yeah, I get it. That's right, the answer, of course, is ice. Oh, he's making them with ice. Not even with wax. Oh, and that's why it looks like the meter's been dripping, yes. Duh, ice. Did you say ice? Mr. Shamsphere has been leaving soaps like this outside his window each evening filled with water. After a night outside in the bitter cold, the water is completely frozen solid the next morning. Then he takes his fake coins of ice and feeds them to the gas meter, giving him light and warmth in spades. As his room becomes very comfortably warm, the ice now in his meter's coin box melts, turning back into water and draining harmlessly away through the small hole made in the underside of the meter. That is how, without leaving any evidence of his wrongdoing, this man has been stealing Altamont gas. Yeah, we were a little overcomplicated in our guess. Just like that, so simply. Is he trying to make us look like idiots? He's been fooling us all with some bars of soap and some water. That's right, madame. Don't believe it, it can't be true. Do you have any idea how much money we spent to develop that new meter? And now you have the audacity to suggest that a bit of soap and some water can render it totally useless? Hey, don't get mad at me, get mad at him! I'm fairly sure I didn't design it. Evidence. Sorry? I want evidence. If you're going to stand there and tell me our meters are rubbish, I want to see proof. She's very good at enforcing accountability, isn't she? Very well, Lady Altamont. If you'd like evidence, I'll provide it. What? Mr. Naruhodo, are you saying you actually do have evidence to support this theory? Yes. The wet marks on the floor. I did notice a trace of something that bothered me a little at the time. And I have a feeling that this theory we've come up with now could explain it. The piece of evidence that substantiates the theory about how Mr. Shamspeare has been stealing gas is the crime scene photograph.
Take that!
This is a photograph of the scene at the point when the victim was discovered, taken by Inspector Gregson. And it clearly shows the remnants of the crime carried out by Mr. Shamspeare. What remnants? Here you can see the gas meter on the wall in Mr. Shamspeare's room. Now, look closely at the floorboards directly underneath the meter. What is that? Some kind of grubby stain? Almost certainly it's a water stain resulting from the liquid that drained out of the hole made in the meter. Ah! If one coin gives around 2 hours of gas usage, and the occupant was heating his room in all his waking hours, we can imagine he would have used around 10 of his fake coins each day. Does he have that much soap? The melting ice inside the meter's coin box would have been dripping out almost constantly, leaving a stain on the floor. This is awful! And there's further evidence too. Mr. Shamspeare is slumped over his table, apparently having consumed strychnine. And right there next to him is a bar of soap, broken in half. You're right! It would appear to me then, Counsel, that the man was eating the soap, was he? Pardon me for disagreeing with your lordship, but certainly not. He didn't beat about the bush there, did he? In truth, Mr. Shamspeare was found with a fork in his hand. A meal of soap is sounding... A meal of soap is sounding increasingly likely, Lord Van Zeeks. Do you mean to say he was using that fork to remove the ice from the soap, yes? Yes. To extract a frozen coin from the bar of soap. But the bar broke in half. So perhaps it didn't go very well. Good gracious! Goodbye, bottle. The poor public gallery. I wouldn't want to be in the public gallery behind Van Zeeks. You'd end up with glass in your face. Or other parts of your body. And wine all over yourself. Lord Van Zeeks? I was throwing my hand up in despair, and happened to catch my hallowed bottle on the way. Pray, forgive my maladroit mistake. What is the meaning of this, Counsel? Allow me to propose my learned friend a question. What exactly did you establish with your most recent cross-examination? Well... that Mr. William Shamspeare is a liar and a thief. In other words, that his testimony is unreliable. That's it. That's exactly it. Very well, let us assume the man is a liar. Now allow me to pose another question. What possible difference does that make? Well, we know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. Unless the poison was contained in the ice, in the soap, and on the night in question there were no visitors to the room except the accused. The young gasman's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body is via the tea. No, he could have had an icy poison. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. Even if William Shamspeare is the liar you claim him to be, these facts have been objectively established. There's no escaping it. Therefore, in light of these facts, the prosecution calls for immediate adjudication. What? Order, order! Well, counsel, how does the defence respond? Mr. Naruhodo! What was the point of that last cross-examination? Did it actually get us anywhere? Or did it make no difference at all, like Lord Van Zieks is saying? Raise an objection. No, this isn't over. The defence will not rest. What? But, counsel, you've successfully explained everything. You've identified and substantiated the unscrupulous method employed by Mr. Shamspeare to consume gas. What more is there to discuss? Lord Van Zieks just highlighted 3 facts in order to make his point. But contrary to what he would have the court believe, not all of them have been objectively established at all. What are you trying to say, my Nipponese friend? At least one of those so-called facts is an assumption, made due to a lack of evidence. Consume gas, he did. But the situation has changed now, following the cross-examination of the latest witnesses to take the stand. Don't be absurd! What is this nonsense? Yes, when you bring everything we've learnt so far together and consider it as a whole, it's clear. There's a question that we now need to reconsider, namely, was the poison in the tea? Because it could have been in the ice. We've all been led to believe that the strychnine poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare was in the tea brought to him by Mr. Natsume. But that's conjecture at best.
Objection.
The victim has testified that nothing else passed his lips that night. There is no other possibility. And since there was no trace of the tea left at the scene, it couldn't be tested for traces of the poison.
Objection.
As I said, the situation has changed. Because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene. Oh! Because that's the liquid that was frozen in the thing. Because that's why it was red. And a particular piece of evidence proves it.
Objection.
A ludicrous claim. Scotland Yard detectives investigated the scene exhaustively. What evidence are you suggesting they missed? The defence has made a bold claim indeed. Very well, counsel. Present your proof. What evidence from the scene of the crime can tell us about the nature of the defendant's tea? The bar of soap.
Take that!
Good gracious! The soap again? The same bar the victim used to fashion his coins of ice? Oh yeah, because he couldn't have gone and got more water. Because public pump is frozen. So he used the liquid he had. Yes, that's right, my lord. It's just come back to me. Something about when we first found this bar of soap at the scene yesterday. It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? Oh, so there's still one coin of tea. I'm quite certain that when we originally stumbled upon the bars of soap, there was actually a frozen coin in each bar. So you discovered the guest thief's coin factory. Fascinating. In a way, yes, but there's more. The coins we found in the soup at the time weren't normal ice. There was something strange about them, you mean? Exactly, something very obviously strange. They were red. The ice was red. No, you mean... That's right. It's obvious to me now. And me. The fake coins in the soap were made from frozen tea. What? I would remind the court of a statement made by Mr. Natsume earlier in this trial. That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. Ah, yes, I believe there had been a snowfall that day. It was particularly cold. Sadly, on such occasions, the poorly constructed water mains in the East End are prone to freezing. So on the night in question, Mr. Shamspeare, having no running water to use, was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume in order to make his fake coins. My word! There were 2 bars of soap on the window ledge when my judicial assistant and I investigated the scene. That's right, and we only borrowed one of them. Which means that even as we speak, some of the defendant's tea is still present at the scene of the crime. Frozen solid in a bar of soap outside Mr. Shamspeare's window. Extraordinary! Earlier today, Inspector Gregson informed the court that if even one drop of the tea remains, Scotland Yard would be able to analyse it for poison. As such, we are now in a position to prove or disprove what has until now been mere conjecture. By finding out for sure whether or not Mr. Natsume's tea actually contains strychnine at all. Ah, you smug Nipponese! My lord, we cannot do the defendant the injustice of passing judgment now. The police should be dispatched to recover the remaining bar of soap from the scene at once. And the defence requests a thorough analysis of the frozen tea embedded in it, to determine whether or not it contains any poison. Yes, we need to spill the tea on this poison situation. Bailiff! Bailiff! Instruct the police to attend the scene at once. Yes, my lord, understood. It would seem we have no choice but to suspend these proceedings for the time being. I trust you have no objection, Lord Van Zeeks? None, my lord. Scotland Yard will recover the tea from the scene and carry out the requisite tests immediately. The trial will resume at the same hour tomorrow. The prosecution and defence may conduct further investigations as appropriate in the interim. Yes, my lord. Well, we managed to scrape through there somehow. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned until tomorrow. To be continued. We made it through the first day of court. And that does feel like a pretty good point to stop, because I've got a few things I need to get done. So, while it's a little bit shorter than I'd normally stream on a Sunday, I am going to call it here. So, thank you very much for coming. It's been fun. If you're new here and you've enjoyed your time, please consider subscribing to the channel. Follow me on Twitter, which is where I post the stream schedule for the week. This was the last scheduled stream of the week, so there will be a new schedule up later. The next stream will be Monday, 7 PM BST, and I'm going to be drawing. That's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Drawing. Do something a little bit different. Hope to see you then, or another time. Once again, thanks for coming, and this is Kalla, signing out. See ya, bye bye.